May the words of my mouth, the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. And good morning, St. Thomas.
Good morning.
Good to see you today. It's good to be together, isn't it? So today we're going to go on a walk. We're going to take this walk to Emmaus. Now I have to tell you a story. I think I was in high school. I taught Sunday school and Bible school and everything other chance I had to teach at that time. And I introduced this story to a bunch of little children. And I said, we're going to talk today about some people who walked to Emmaus. A little boy who wasn't really paying attention said, why are they going to see a mouse? He got a star for the day. He did. I thought that was great. So this road to Emmaus. So it's about 7 miles from Jerusalem. And we're going to go on this walk together and think about what this story has to say to us today. So when I was reflecting on this portion of this gospel narrative, in all the years since I've been ordained, I don't think I've ever preached on this particular story. I don't know why. So it was a lot of fun to read up on the story and see it, get other people's opinions and how they interpret it. The important thing is always with the gospel is that we need to make it personal for ourselves. We need to study and talk about these gospel stories as a community, but we also need to make it real for ourselves. So we're on a walk today, my dear people. All of us are on this road to Emmaus today. We are not looking for mice, we are looking for Jesus. So there's 3 different parts to this that I kind of grouped together. Walking, talking, and eating. 3 of my favorite things. I excel at the second and third really well. Okay. Walking, I love. I had shared in my reflection Monday, Thursday, that I love taking personality tests or any kind of those tests. Thank you. I think they're fun, aren't they? Yes. I've got letters behind my name. I know what number I am in the Enneagram. On the geometric shapes, I didn't fit the closed ones on the squiggly little line that ran off the page. Yes, I found some new friends. But one of the best ones that I did was to find out what is my own particular best spiritual practice. Now, we should try all of them. I read about Benedictine. Okay, he was a nice guy, but he didn't like laughter, so I wrote him off. I put that book way back on the shelf. I did an Ignatian study with a woman here who had been our pastoral minister for 2 years. But I found that my best spiritual practice is walking, like walking the labyrinth, just being outside in nature. And I love to walk outside. I will probably, if I can coax David to go with me, go on a walk today in the rain. Snow, wind, rain, as long as it's not destructive, I like being outside and walking. Because your body is doing something, but your mind can just kind of go where it wants, and you can let things sift down and sort it out. And I have found that to be really my favorite thing to do. I do not excel at sitting still. So they're walking, and they're also talking to each other. And then the very last scene is the meal where Jesus is revealed to these people. So let's think about walking. So there are different ways to walk. There's speed walking, which we do sometimes, where you walk at a normal pace, and then for 10, 15 seconds, you go as fast as you can, and then you go back to your normal pace. That's fun. We have a habit of, in the summer, if we see the skies getting gray and it's going to be a thunderstorm, we wait till the last minute and then try to run around the block near our house to see if we can beat the storm and the rain. I think our children know we do that. Please don't tell them now, because we're at an age where they'll be concerned. There's slow walking, there's hiking, that's a challenge. We have And then there's places that we walk. Now, I love going around my neighborhood. It's great. Some days I remember, I just say a little prayer as I'm walking along for the neighbors, even if I don't know them. But I also have holy places to walk. One of them is Middle Creek. When we go to Middle Creek, we drive through it or we stop and walk. It's a holy, healing kind of place. The other one is in our backyard, Landis Woods, which I think you walk sometimes. And that's another place, a holy place for us, because you don't know you're in the middle of Manheim Township and very close to a very busy road. You can get away and think, and you hear the birds and the squirrels rustling when you're walking. So we have holy paths that we walk. But today, we are all on this holy path on the road to Emmaus. And we are still walking that road. We're not in Israel, but for us, it's a road to Emmaus because on that road was where these people in the story saw Jesus in a different way. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This holy walk that we are all on individually, but together. So it's important that as we walk, we talk with each other about what is going on. Now, talking is my way of solving problems. That is why I'm not a big fan of my dentist, because I can't talk to him as he's working on my mouth, which would make me feel so much better if I could just tell him, it's nothing personal, but I really don't want to be there. Now, I am the kind of person who talks through things. I'm not even going to look at David. And when something happens, I have to talk to someone. I'm going to pick on Jennifer because she's safe, but we talk a lot. And last Sunday, after that wonderful, well, we had fun, Holy Humor Sunday, honestly, we talked about that several times this week, didn't we? Over and over. Wasn't that great? Oh my goodness. Did you see Rita as 3CPO? Who would have thought? When I see you, Rita, I just want to go, you are wonderful. And Thomas, then. I loved your portrayal of Thomas. I never thought of seeing Thomas that way. No, didn't happen. Couldn't have happened. And I loved it. And that's what our goal is today, is to keep practicing and learning to see Jesus and other people in unexpected ways, especially when those people show us Jesus in a new way. So these people are walking. That morning they said, the women had gone to the tomb, so they already knew that story. And they're walking to Emmaus. I don't know why, probably to meet up with some other disciples. But they're talking to each other and they notice a stranger. Now, I don't know, have you ever been chatting with someone and you're so deep in the conversation you don't really notice when somebody else has joined? The one time that was not a good idea, not paying attention, was if I'm talking about the principal and she suddenly showed up beside me. So they're talking about events that have happened. And they didn't notice the stranger. Now, I will tell you, this part of the story has always intrigued me. If some of them walked with Jesus for 3 years, up and down the countryside, they saw him heal people, they saw him do all kinds of things and take on the Pharisees and everything else. He told them what was going to happen, but they still didn't get it. And yet, why was it that here in that road, they didn't recognize him? I know people change their hair color and get glasses or new clothes or whatever, but not to recognize him when you've practically lived with him for 3 years? But it says that their eyes were kept from seeing him. Do we have our eyes closed sometimes when it comes to seeing Jesus? Do we forget to open our eyes? And maybe sometimes God allows that for a purpose, for a reason. So they're talking about all this stuff and they don't notice this stranger until he says to them, What are you talking about? Now, I am not putting down 7th graders. I love them. But no one in the world can ask a question that makes an adult feel really silly. Because Jesus said, and I'm not saying Jesus is silly, but it reminded me. He said, what things? Now, when I have given instructions, or when I did in my classroom, and then someone came up and said, what are you talking about? It's like, where have you been? You know all year what the rules are in this classroom. But Jesus says to them, what things? And I'm sure they were astounded. Like, what do you mean, what things? You don't know what happened in Jerusalem? You didn't, we were talking about the story that happened this morning, how these women found the tomb empty. So they're strolling along talking about these things. And then they come to Emmaus, and Jesus acts like he's going to keep going, and they invite him, of course, to stay with them, to come and eat with them. Now, eating together in many cultures is truly significant. It is a holy experience. In some countries, you do not ever say no to an invitation, because that is saying no to that person, to who they are. So this was no small thing when they said to Jesus, why don't you come and eat with us? So Jesus did. And as they're eating, their eyes were opened and they recognized him. So what does this tell us about our walk, our personal walk? Now, some scholars think that there's a parallel between the story and our own spiritual experience. So we're all walking. There's no question. We're all on this road to Emmaus in one way or the other. And some of us are farther along in our understanding than others. That's okay, because the only one who truly manages that is God. So we're all at different places. We will see things differently. We will hear things differently. And so we need to remember that because I see it a certain way, somebody else might be in a different place. And I'm not God to go and correct them as much as we'd like to. But we are at different places on our journey. And yet, the same goal is for all of us, to see Jesus the way he comes to us, not the way we think he should be, not how we think he should look, not how we think he should act. The purpose of the gospel stories is to open us up to see him in different ways. Now, this is the second story in the last couple of weeks where we really heard Jesus breaking bread with his disciples at the Last Supper and here at this meal. There's something special about that, just like we find the communion, the meal that we're going to share in a little bit, special for us, right? We are going to be fed, and Jennifer is going to symbolically break the body of Jesus for us. That's to remind us that God has things come in our lives to open us up, to break us. This story serves as a reminder for us that we are in this journey together. We need to see Jesus in different ways. Now, I will tell you a story. Some of you may have heard this, but years ago, it was a while ago, we lived in Israel for a summer, part of a summer. We had taken the children to Masada, the rock, the big mountain, and on the way back, it was extremely hot. I mean, you could hardly take a breath, it was so hot. So David and I were asking the taxi driver to please stop and get the children a drink. And he kept saying, no, I know a place. So we kept driving and driving and driving, and we're looking at each other like, come on, please, you know? So he finally pulled into literally this little oasis, palm trees, a little shelter hut. And he knew the gentleman who ran this place. He sold some food and drink for travelers. And they were friends, and so we understood why he wanted us to go to that place. So David and I are looking at the list of things to choose to drink. The children wanted lemonade. We did not want them to have sugar, so we were looking at water. The gentleman said to us behind the counter, he said, are you Americans? You can't deny it. Just don't even try. Yeah, we are. He said, are you Christians? And that was a trickier question because you don't want to lie, but you need to be thoughtful and careful. And we just said, yes, actually we are. And he said, well, I thought so because you were debating about the cost between lemonade and water, which was not really true. It was about sugar. But so then he said, where are you from? And we said, Pennsylvania. He said, oh, I know Pennsylvania. Where in Pennsylvania? And we said, well, close to Philadelphia. Oh, I know Philadelphia. Do you know Akron? You know, you're standing there, and I'm thinking, I'm in a desert with two young children, and someone says to me, do you know Akron? And I said, well, yes, we live like 15 minutes away from it. Oh, do you know the Mennonite Central Committee? Now, at that time, we were members of the Mennonite Church. Yeah, we know it well. The deacon at our church worked there. And he said, oh, yes. He said, I've been to Akron for leadership training for my group of people here in was it near Jericho? I think it was one of the cities, towns. Halfway around the world, in the middle of a desert, we run into somebody who reminded us of Jesus. Isn't that amazing? And that's what we have to look for. Now, okay, I'm going to try something today, so bear with me. I want to hear from some people who've seen Jesus in unexpected ways. Vicki Hilton. Vicki, could you come and share with us like an experience you might have had with... Thank you. You get extra stars and a chocolate bar afterwards. Sure, yeah.
Good morning. I have had an experience with Jesus, but mine is a little bit different. I've obviously seen Jesus in many people that even go to this church. I've seen them act in very Christian, loving ways, just like he would do. And but my way that it resonated is back in 2016. Jesus prompted me to donate a kidney. I had been going to a Bible study for many years with a sweet lady named Deanna, and she had been undergoing dialysis, and we could tell in our group that her health was starting to fail, and the dialysis just was not working for her anymore. And so we decided to take her to lunch one day, and it was at lunch that she shared her dire situation. The doctor told her that she needed to find a live kidney donor. Deanna was 73, so she could not be put on the transplant donor list. She did not meet the criteria for that. So she was in a bad way. And I wouldn't say I'm an impulsive person, I'm compassionate, but at that moment, I felt this overwhelming sense that I needed to offer to donate my kidney and go through the testing. And she, of course, was delighted. However, I hadn't checked it out with Frank, my husband, or my kids, which was a pretty big deal to, decide to donate your kidney. So went home and asked Frank and the kids, and they were fine with it. And so we proceeded forward. And I will tell you that if you decide to donate a kidney, you find out that you're a very healthy person. You go through a lot of tests. There's a lot of vetting to it. First of all, they have to know that you have two kidneys, because there are some people that actually only have one kidney. But I did obviously have two kidneys, so I was able to donate. But the beautiful thing was the prompting that I got from Jesus, but also how God orchestrated that we were a direct tissue match, which means that I could directly give my kidney to Deanna, which was a praise God moment because I thought that it might have to be a paired donation. I knew nothing about this prior to going into this, offer, But if you don't match somebody directly, then you have to put your kidney into the pool, so to speak, and then Deanna might get a kidney from somebody else that has more of a match. But God orchestrated that so beautifully. So that was the first hurdle, and that was huge. But then I had to continue on and go through some more testing. And I had a few setbacks. One was that my glomerular filtration rate, which is a testing that they do to determine how well your kidneys are functioning, mine didn't meet the criteria. And so, of course, because I had offered to donate this kidney, I was thinking, oh my, I've got to be able to do this. But I had just had a peace about it. I prayed about it, and Jesus just gave me the assurance that it was going to work out. So I had to drink more fluids, which I realized that I pretty much my whole life been walking around dehydrated because I wasn't drinking nearly the amount that they were telling me that I had to drink. So I increased that, and it all worked out, and my GFR came up, and I was able to donate the kidney. And that was July 17th, 2016. Deanna is still doing quite well. That was 10 years ago. And we go out every year on the anniversary. We go out for either ice cream or we go out for dinner with our husbands and just celebrate what God did in our lives. And I will have to say that through this process, I just was so grateful that I didn't think I'd get emotional, that I would follow through, and that I really feel now that I can really discern Jesus. I can discern his spirit. Some people call it intuition, but I know it's the Holy Spirit. And so I guess I would just, to say to everyone, when you get those inner promptings, be obedient, do what, God asks you to do, because it really is a blessing. It was a blessing for me as well as it was for Vienna.
Thank you, Vicki.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And I think one more. John Baldwin. Travis, I'll put you in the list, okay? Next time. Gotcha.
First of all, thank you, Jane, for inviting me up.
You're welcome.
Well, good morning. My story is more like discovering Jesus in others. I know I probably might have shared with you that back in 2011, I was diagnosed with a severe bone marrow cancer. And the cancer was rapidly eating away all my bones. And you might not know, but the femur in your legs, that's the largest bone. And that's where I had my largest hole. I had a 2-inch diameter hole in my left femur. So the physicians, in a desperate attempt to stop the erosion, put me on radiation treatment. And when you do radiation, you do it 3 weeks in a row, but you can't miss a day. And when we discovered it, it was in January, of course, and it just so happened that January was a busy snow January. And so one of the days when I was getting the radiation treatment, I heard a pretty bad, could be a lot of snow that night. And so I asked my rad techs that were there, I said, in heavy snow, and they said, no, Mr. Baldwin, we will be there. So I said, okay, so that was one worry. Don't have to worry about that. So my appointment was at 9 because I was doing it at 9 a.m. every day. And my wife and I hoped that the forecast was going to be incorrect because I wasn't allowed to put any weight on my left leg, and my wife's not strong enough to pull start our snowblower. So we're saying, okay, go to bed. Snow won't be bad. So we woke up and we discovered 9 inches had fallen. And so what are we going to do? I don't know. So about 7 o'clock, we heard activity outside. I'm sorry, and we looked out at 3 of our neighbors were clearing our driveway. I didn't even know they knew we were in this kind of condition, you know? And they did our driveway before they did their own. They did our driveway without us asking, like we didn't even know. So this is just one example I had during that 12-month period of seeing Jesus in others.
Thank you, Don. Now, before you start reaching for your smelling salts, okay, this was planned. I wanted it to look like it was a surprise, but I don't want you not to come back to church because, I'm sorry, you've got 2 crazy clergy leaders and you never know what we're going to do. But we will not put you on the spot, or will we, Jennifer? There's a couple. No, she didn't promise, so okay. But thank you so much. This is what makes it real. When we hear stories from other people of how we were broken open to see Jesus, this is what we learn to do. And we learn to do it deeper and more often. So you do not have to come and go for a walk with me today. But let's take a walk this week. And remember, this road to Emmaus is a road that we are all on. Amen.